Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how to be the authentic version of yourself. For many people, they want to get into this realm of I'm true to who I'm supposed to be, or I'm the person living my life. Yet sometimes we are living the life that other people have given us. We might be very close to what we want to be. For example, let's say you want to be a movie star. On your path to being that movie star, you find yourself doing commercials, you find yourself doing a lot of auditions, but then you realize that you didn't necessarily want to be a movie star. You wanted to be an actor. You actually wanted to be a teacher. You might have enjoyed the aspect of teaching people how to act and how to be famous. And that right there can be just an aspect that we learn from. When we give ourselves this idea, oh, I am going to be this one person, or, oh, I have this one problem. It can actually be more than what we see. It's almost like when we see a tree, is the tree only the trunk all the way up to the leaves and the branches, or is it going to be the roots too? So we do have to understand that what we do has some base, has some foundation, and it can stem all the way from when we're kids, all the way from when we were running around at night getting bit by mosquitoes. If you're Gen Z, probably running around your house with your tablets and your smartphones and watching TV. We learn what we are fond of. We learn what maybe sparks us or makes us feel good or brings some sense of joy. We do have to do some due diligence though. We have to get the experience. We have to do the trial and error. Because in life, we're born as a blank canvas, a blank slate, and we have to do our job to go through life to figure out exactly, well, what are we supposed to be doing? What are going to be the problems that we face? And today we're going to be learning about ourselves in the realest fashion we can. And that's going to be with my guest, Ruhina Mehra, who we're going to be talking about how to get to our why, and then maybe even finding that spark and uncovering that spark within us, because we all have it. We just need a little bit of guidance sometime. So here's that interview with Ruhina and myself.
Just text, I know it's a toss up, but I hate
Welcome, Ruhina Mehra, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on, Michael.
Of course. And today we're going to be talking about the work that you do, and that's going to be authenticity coaching. Helping people be the realest person of themselves is probably the most essential and vital role a coach can do, because we live in a world where people decide to be someone else, where they decide to be a fake version of themselves instead of learning how to be the true version of themselves. And today we're going to be talking about the work that you do and how you help people find that version of yourself. In your own words, can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you for having me on. Like you already said, my name is Ruhina Mehra, and I'm an authenticity coach and guide. And I work with people to help them get clarity on the goals they have in their lives, and then to help them build the confidence to moving towards those goals, so that people can ultimately really live a life of ease and joy and happiness and fulfillment, which is really what we're all trying to do while we're here on, our short or long time in the world, however you want to look at it.
What would be maybe one of the biggest issues I think you see when you're working with clients who are coming to you to say, hey, I'm trying to live life the right way? What is the biggest issue that you see?
So typically people don't come to me if they're like, I'm not living happily enough, or there's usually there's like another issue that's rooted, or rather there's another issue related to what's like the root cause. But so they'll come to me like because their relationships maybe aren't going well, or they're looking for a relationship, or they're unhappy at work and they want to either have a change or figure out what they can do to make things better, work-life balance, or just even familial relationships. Sometimes they're having trouble there. So these are all of what I like to call like the outlying things that are happening. But ultimately, what is relevant to all of these categories, the relationship you have to yourself. So that's the thing that I'm always trying to focus on, but people come to me for different reasons. And then we're always touching on how to focus on that relationship to yourself. And we are holistic people. So every part of our lives is connected to every other part. So I think it's really, really important to come back to that core.
Yeah, you're right. We are connected. So if your relationship is not doing good, your career is probably not doing good. And it's just kind of a spiral effect. And I think sometimes people think, well, one area of my life is wrong, and they'll just look at this area. For example, career is a big one. I just hate my job. I hate my job. And they'll say that all day long. And yes, maybe you do hate your job, but maybe there's other areas of your life that need to be adjusted too. It could be health and wellness. It could be, some issues that you're having at home. We have a hard time because we are playing the blame game where we make excuses and we just give our focus to one thing. And the clarity that you provide is saying, hey, it might not be your relationships that's a problem. It could be other things. So you help people, I guess, explore their life in its totality rather than just a singular aspect of it's your career, it's your relationship, because I think people will get into that mindset where they just think about that one thing that's the problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of like deep questioning, helping people really understand why they think the way they do. And then also mirroring back, a lot of what they're presenting, because you don't realize a lot of times what's going on in your head. You just see it from your perspective. But then when someone else says it to you in maybe a different way, if you paraphrase it, people will like suddenly stop and be like, wait, that's what I sound like? That's what I'm doing or saying? So yeah, it's definitely a lot of that.
And you said something interesting, right? The deep questioning. What are some of those deep questions that you would ask a client or ask a person that is going through something and you want to get below the surface?
I have an easy answer to this one. My big question that I ask a lot is why. Because a lot of people don't necessarily think about why they feel a certain way, why they're doing certain things. So if someone tells me they're having trouble in the relationship, for example, of course I'll ask why, and then we'll keep unpeeling that. That's the biggest one that I find to be the most helpful because you need someone to sometimes hold that space for you to help you think about why. And maybe it won't even happen in the moment. Maybe I'll ask why. And then 20 minutes later or 2 days later, someone will like come to that like realization, like, oh, this is why I act the way I do here. And this is causing issues for me here. And then the other question, which is just as important, is the how can I move forward differently? So why and how are really, really big ones for me. And of course, with the how we work together to develop like goals or plans or things to help the person move forward in the direction they'd like to go in.
The why is so important. I think I just did a blog and a whole episode on why, because it was just something that they just need to be reminded of constantly. And it's easy to give ourselves that why when it's an important situation or a trauma. It's a big event in our life where we can say, okay, I'm going to focus on my why. And they focus on the why for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two, and then it kind of just fades away. Why do you think even if they are having these issues that they want resolved and they find their why, maybe they learn how to do it, but they don't stay committed to that course of action?
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, like you said, understanding the why and then holding on to it and really like embodying, whatever it is that you've learned about yourself or like someone has helped you explore about yourself, that is extremely important. You can't just like be like, why do I do this? And then decide to move on, from it the next day, because that's not going to help you if you're looking to get results.
Yeah. But then we need to, I think, dive deep into the person or just society, maybe as a whole. It's not just one or two people who just can't find their why or hold true to the why or stay committed to a plan. It's a good majority of people. Why do you think so many people, in the masses now, get into this routine of not pushing themselves, not learning about themselves, and not committing to themselves?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different reasons, but the big one, in my opinion, is that we are all hardwired now to live a certain way. We're taught like you're 9 to 5, go to school, you grow up, you go to school, maybe go to college, maybe get your master's, or maybe get a postgraduate degree, and then do your 9 to 5, you work, you get married, you have children, and then you move on to old age, you retire, and that's your life. We are conditioned to live that way. And I think, that made a little more sense maybe a few decades or generations ago. But in that process of putting everyone in the same box, a lot of us have forgotten that there are different ways to live. We're all focusing on the end result. We're all focusing on survival, and of course that comes with money. So we're all focusing, how do we survive? How are we financially stable? Which is very important. And I do not discount the importance of that at all. But we've forgotten how to look into what inspires us, what helps us be creative, what helps us live from that spark that's within all of us, that thing that really ignites us. It can't be the same for everybody. We're all different people. We're meant to live differently. Everyone, you could say hypothetically, everyone could be doing a 9 to 5 job, but I don't necessarily think so. I think that there's so much more to being a human, but we're all just trying to walk this path. At least not everyone, of course. There's people out there who stray from the norm, but the majority of us are taught to do that. So I think that's the big reason. And when we only see things and like end result, we forget about the journey. We forget about the day to day. We forget about the little things and looking for the joy in the little things that we're doing.
If we just look at society, look at the school system, look at how we're hardwired or programmed, we are just on that regimented path. And this just becomes our norm, right? Oh, we have to get that 9 to 5. Oh, we have to go to college. Oh, we have to do this. Oh, we need money. We give ourselves all of these different things and obligations that might not be congruent with who we truly are. Like on the inside, you might not want to work a 9 to 5, and you can have a business where you just work a 9 to 12. You can make all the money you need. And for people who are just in that in that 9 to 5 mindset, it's like this is the minimum, where you could work more than 8 hours a day. I mean, I like working more than 8 hours a day, but for the average person, as soon as they hit that 8 hour mark, they're like, I'm done. Right. So we actually give ourselves a limit when we just say a 9 to 5, because that's going to be a structured time. And when I talk about the 9 to 5 mindset, it's not so much that if you have a 9 to 5 job, you're doing the wrong thing. It's just that your mindset is stuck in that minimum aspect. I have to work 8 hours a day. I have to work 40 hours a week. I have to have 2 weeks off a year. Why do we give ourselves those limits rather than saying, what, I want to do more than my 9 to 5, or I want to be more than my 9 to 5. And you don't have to work 8 hours a day to have a 9 to 5. Again, like I said, you could work a 9 to 12 and you could still be fulfilled. But we give ourselves this minimum that is sometimes not helpful because it stems into our limiting beliefs. So I wanted to get into a conversation with you right now about limiting beliefs and how people give themselves limiting beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Limiting beliefs is, we are all different people. We all have different experiences. We all grow up taking in different things and from our families, the way we're raised, from our environment. And we don't realize that, again, coming back to like that conditioning, that because of the people, that we're learning from, they were taught a certain thing, they're teaching us certain ways to live as well. We don't realize that those can be limiting ways to live. And it's hard to think outside the box if you don't even know what's outside the box sometimes. I think that's a big part of what I try to do, is just going back to your question about like what questions I like to ask. I like to ask people like what kind of things that help them shift their perspective. Maybe you work a 9 to 5, but like what would it look like if you worked, like, for example, like you said, like 9 to 12, and then you did something for yourself the rest of the time? What would that look like? And that could be a limiting belief because people didn't even know, like, oh my God, what are you talking about? That's crazy talk. That's not an option for me. But why isn't it an option? Digging deep into why we are choosing to see the world a certain way is definitely important and behind a lot of our limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And then you said, also thinking outside the box, because people, they just get into the way of thinking that they were told or that is common. Sometimes we just have to have our own way of thinking. We have to have our own imagination. We have to have our own dreams. And if we don't, then we're just going to be essentially conforming to the ideals of our path. Yet we can create our path. And it's so important that we learn how to create our path. And you talked about a spark. You talked about the spark within a person. And I think that spark is going to be the key to ignite many people's ambitions to say, you know what, I want to make some change. I want to change my circumstance. How do you help people find that spark, uncover that spark, or light that spark?
To be honest, I think it's a lot simpler and easier than we really think what that spark is. I oftentimes will tell people to think back to their childhoods. What did you love to do as a child? It could be anything. Like, it could be, you might think it's the silliest thing. Maybe you like to collect rocks as a child. Maybe you like to tell stories as a kid. or read, whatever it is, that is where your spark comes from. I mean, I have a friend who she loved rocks. She became a geologist. She followed her spark very literally. We ignore those things because we think, oh, that's not productive. Like, what am I going to do with that? I can tell stories all day or whatever it is. But you can, like, if telling stories gives you joy, then you should be maybe hosting a podcast, or maybe you should be giving presentations somewhere, or there's things you can do. Or maybe you don't even need to make a job out of it. Maybe you just need to be with your community and with your people and telling the stories that ignite you. That could be enough for you. The little things that are happening in your life that give you joy, that is your spark. And again, people discount that because, again, we're so focused on productivity and end result and what do we gain from this, but that's not the purpose of the spark. The spark is just joy and living in the moment. That's it.
And going off your example of storytelling, so if you have that spark or that joy of storytelling, you have many avenues. You can be a kindergarten teacher, reading books and telling stories to children. You can be a librarian. You could be a historian. You can, again, as you said, be a podcast host. So there's many different avenues that you can take in order to be that storyteller that you have that spark and that drive and that ambition for. For me, we had a similar, I guess, situation when it came to what my spark was. And my spark, long story short, is teaching. I just enjoy teaching. And when I was a teacher, because I taught K to 12, I was like, all right, this is cool. And I loved it. I loved every day. I loved the kids. I loved the aspect of teaching, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to have a bigger impact. Eventually, I left teaching and started my own business. And from there, I'm still teaching. I'm still coaching. I'm still educating. But it wasn't until I had a mentor that told me, saying, hey, Michael, you should be teaching. And for me, it was just like I was always giving myself a job. It wasn't I'm teaching. It was I'm a teacher. I'm doing this. I'm a coach. And so now that I have identified, or my mentor was able to see that within me, saying, this is your spark. That's how storytelling can be your spark, or the love of rocks and geology can be your spark. We do have to define what that looks like in our future. And it doesn't have to be one path too, similar to what I did. I mean, I started teaching and then I eventually went off into my own business. So it was kind of multiple paths of my spark where I was able to define exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. And that's really beautiful that you had someone that helped you see that in you. Because oftentimes we ignore what seems to be so basic. Like, you may know it at your core, but until it's voiced out loud, like maybe you didn't really recognize that. And like you said, also, like, we put ourselves in boxes. We define ourselves by our job title. Like, I'm a whatever, product manager, I'm a this. But we are multifaceted people. We can do many things in tandem with one another. And if they're all things that we love to do, or if it's just one thing we love to do, then, so be it. Whatever works.
And it's so important that we understand that we can do more. We can change shoes. Sometimes people think, I got this 4-year college degree and I spent all this money on it, or maybe they got a doctorate and now they feel stuck. They feel stuck in this career. How do you help people get out of that unstuck? Or how do you help people find the way out of that situation that maybe put themselves in, or someone put them in, that they spent all this time on education, a career, and now they have a total different calling?
I think this is going back to the perspective shifting. A lot of people, don't like, they're in their box and they're doing their thing, don't realize that it's okay to change and it's okay to evolve. And that is the best way to live, really. If you're choosing to go against that, you're almost choosing to go against like the way we're naturally meant to live. You're not going to be the same person you were when you were 10 years old and when you're 20 years old versus when you're 30 years old. Your interests are allowed to change. They're supposed to. If you find something new, you learn about new things, and you find something new when you're 30 versus when you were 10, and you want to incorporate that in your life. Would you rather just be sitting on the, and thinking about that 50, 100 grand you spent at college and then decide that's it, that's my life, I have to pursue that? Or you could look at it as I learned something from that experience, and that has led me to where I am now. And what can I learn and what can I do in my life in this moment that will help me bring fulfillment to my current life? So it's a lot about also living in the present moment. And we've forgotten how to do that, I think, as people. Again, we're taught, like, think about the future. What's next? What's next? What's next? I try to bring people back to this moment, to their bodies, like in the now. And like, how do you feel now? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you fulfilled? Whatever the emotion is that's coming up. Once you can really recognize that and you recognize how you want to then feel in the future, that's the path you follow. You decide, like, okay, I want to shift things a little bit because I need a little bit more joy in my life. I want to keep things the same because I like, the way this particular my work thing is working out for me so far. I also want to add, in my own life, that's my experience as well. I went down that path. I did the thing that everyone, for the most, not everyone, but a lot of people do. I went to college. I came out with a science background. I did my master's in health administration. I was working a corporate job in the healthcare field. And I always knew I cared about people. That's my spark. And it took me a long time to really understand that fully. I was following the path from like a sense of like, this is what I think fits, what I'm interested in. But it took me a little while to figure out, oh, I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I love helping people and helping them move ahead in their lives. And that's finally what got me into coaching. So it took me some time. It wasn't until my late 20s, 30, like early 30s, till I was even able to get there. But I'm so glad I made that decision because I learned so much before that, like what I've learned comes into play and like it's useful to me in some way or another. I can't know how, but it is, of course, at some point or another. And I'm continuing to learn and grow.
It's important to understand that the journey provides experience. So even if you go out to college and you get a degree that you might never use in your whole entire life, that experience right there can be used to elevate yourself. Sometimes I think people think, well, I went to school to be a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer. And yes, going to school to be a lawyer is a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work too. A lot of tests and, you got to do all these cases and all these studies, papers, and you might feel obligated because you have given yourself that identity over those years of you preparing to be a lawyer. Now you say, I'm a lawyer. Yet the skills in order to be a lawyer, you have to be confident, you have to be courageous, you have to be daring. There's so many different traits that we learn on that path to being that lawyer. And you can learn about different aspects of law that you might like, and you might learn that, about things that you don't want to do. So there's different types of attorneys. So you could be a divorce attorney, you could do, family law or family court. So there's different avenues even past that. And you can find your niche, or you can find exactly where you feel good. And you might not even find anything related to your degree, and you want to be a florist. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You can start a company because you just love flowers, but you were so focused on the degree, the piece of paper, and not saying that degrees are worthless. They provide great experience and then a great foundation for you to build something on. But not everyone needs a degree. Not everyone needs a 4-year college degree. We have a choice to make. We can do the work, figure out what we truly want, or we can go through life and learn from experience. And I always say that if a high school student had a coach like yourself, Ruhina, they would be in a better place sooner than later. Because now, instead of them just kind of saying, oh, I have to be a lawyer, oh, I have to be an accountant, oh, I have to be a doctor, they can really look at their life. We can look back at being a kid and saying, you know what? My spark was, picking flowers or picking rocks or something along those lines. It wasn't about being a doctor. It wasn't about being a lawyer. Yes, those jobs will give you some money, but will they give you fulfillment? And that's where we truly have to look at. Are you going to be fulfilled at the end of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we get so caught up and so attached to that end identity. So trying to separate ourselves from that is really what I try to do too. It's like at the end of the day, number one, and most importantly, you are human. That is really all. And like you have a soul and you have a personality, of course, but that's really all that matters. Whether you're a lawyer, doctor, whatever, these things, we allow them to define us. And I think that's what takes most of us down these paths of where we feel like, oh no, we can't turn back. Like that's not okay. But once we dissociate a little bit and separate ourselves from these hard rules and these identities that we create for ourselves, these boxes that we put ourselves in, that's when we can really learn to live with a little bit more freedom.
And I love this conversation and just how it went, because we not only just talked about the work that you do, but helping people understand that in life, we do have so many options. We have so many paths that we can be taking. And it's not just one thing that can need fixing. It could be multiple things that need adjusting. And for the people who, need help adjusting, I think this episode is going to be a great start for you, because you're going to say, well, maybe it's not so much of my relationship. Because if we ask ourselves and we become very clear in what we're trying to do, we can say, okay, I want to lose 25 pounds, for an example. Do you really want to lose 25 pounds, or do you want to look better for your kids or for your wife, or you want to be able to do your job more effectively, right? Does that 25 pounds bring you something more than just 25 pounds? And when we become very clear on that, it does help us become more clear in our life, on our goals, in our ambitions, and all that's important. And the best way to do that is with a coach, is with someone who's going to be there in your corner, be there helping you along the way. Because yes, you can do it by yourself, but it's just going to be so much more efficient and effective when you have someone that is going to see your blind spots, see all the troubled areas, and say, you know what, we can make some changes that are going to be helping you be in a better place. And as we begin to wrap up, Ruhina, I would love to have some final words or final thoughts from you. And then please tell the audience where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'd just love to tell people that it's never too late to try something new. That's the biggest piece of advice I like to give people if they ask me, what it is they can change about their lives. Try something different that you haven't tried yesterday or a year ago. You may not like it, but you won't know until you've tried it. So that's how the thing I like to tell people, just explore. And so with that, I'll let everyone know where they can find me. My name is, of course, Ruhina Mehra. My website is www.ruhinamehra.com. My Instagram handle is Ruhina Mehra Coaching. Yeah, and that's everything.
Perfect. I will definitely put your links in the description box below so people can easily find you, reach out to you. And you're right, people do have to try something new. They have to get out of that comfort zone. They have to get out of their box. And it's hard to get out of that box by themselves. And something that they can try today that's new for them is reaching out to you, Ruhina, and checking out your socials and checking out your website, learning about the work that you do, exploring about all the possibilities in their life. And I think that's so important for an individual to not only be who they are today, but understand who they can be tomorrow. I want to thank you so much, Ruhina, for coming on Coaching in Session. Great conversation today. All right, everyone, I'd like to thank you so much for watching that interview with Ruhina and myself. As you can see, she is not only helping people find the authentic version of themselves, but to understand that in life, we can have problems that lead to other problems. And I loved how the conversation went. In the beginning, we were talking about, you might think you have a problem with your career, but you actually have a problem in your relationship. Or you might have a problem with a friend, but the problem is not so much with the friend, but it's with ourselves. And we do have to become very clear in our problems, because if we say we have a problem in our house, and let's say the problem is a leaky faucet. So the faucet is leaking. We can handle the leaky faucet by making sure that the water valves are going to be closed tightly or will close tightly. We can maybe swap out the parts for that. We're not going to say, well, since we have a leaky faucet, we need to go change our whole entire roof, because we never know. Maybe there's a leak in the roof somewhere and it's dripping down, and I think it's falling into the sink and going through the pipes. It doesn't make sense. So we do have to become clear. And we might think, well, it makes sense too, because there could be leaks from the roof, similar to how the sink can be leaky or the faucet can be leaky. Our life can be the same way. That is a very extreme example. Roof and faucet. I mean, most people are not going to put one and two together. But in our life, we might not think that relationships and career or our happiness is all going to be in the same pool or the same environment. We are one person. We are not different personalities unless you're bipolar. You are just one person that has one ambition, one ideal. And I'm not saying you don't have multiple ambitions, but we do want to be happy. We do want to be able to provide for ourselves. We want to make money. We want to make a living. We want to find fulfillment. The things that we strive for, the things that we know we can attain, but how do we do it? This is where a coach comes in. This is where someone who can look into your life, not to ridicule you, not to laugh at you, not to belittle you, but to say, hey, I see in this area, we can use a little bit more clarity. I see in this area, your why is a little bit convoluted, and we help you become more clear. We help you find that why. We help you go after your why, and we make it simple. We make it so you know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and then to give yourself the routine and the habit of continually doing it. Coaching is not something that you do for 1 month. You're like, all right, I got some coaching, and then kind of fade away, and then you kind of fall back into your habits. You do have to spend some time, and you do have to invest in yourself, and you do have to commit to a higher calling. Again, we talked about it in the episode. Your calling is probably not a 9 to 5. I will tell you that much. You might do something that's a 9 to 5, but your calling is not working a 9 to 5. What is your calling? If your calling is not working a 9 to 5, then what is it? Do you know what that is? What we do as coaches is we help people identify that why, help people identify why they're truly going to work 9 to 5. And if they are doing things that they love or things that provide joy and fulfillment to them. Sometimes people, they get into a career because it's circumstance and they are committed to it. I have to do this career because I have to provide for my family. And I'm not saying don't go to work. If you have to go to work a 9 to 5 at a place that you're not fulfilled in, let's learn how can we add something to our schedule so eventually we can replace that 9 to 5 with something we love. Because we all have needs in our life. We all have needs in our days. And we do have to understand that those needs are going to be there whether we like it or not, right? We want safety. We want security. And money is a great way to get that. However, money is not the end all be all. When I was 18, 19, I was making great money. And I was like, I don't think any 18-year-old should have a job like this that makes this much money. Not saying that it's a bad thing. But I mean, I was just like, I have all this money. And then I'm thinking, this money's not making me happy. And I'm stacking all this money in my bank account. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not even spending any of this money. So I remember I went on a retail therapy day and I spent like $200. So bought some new clothes for work. It wasn't even going out. Like, oh, I'm going to buy some new clothes to go out on dates and stuff like that. I literally bought new clothes to go to work. And then I started to think, I'm literally going to work to stack money in my bank account that doesn't mean anything to me. And I'm going to go on shopping sprees to make me feel better, to buy new clothes to go to work. I was like, this sounds like a pyramid scheme or something. I was like, I don't want this to be what I'm remembered for. I don't want this to be my entire life or the bulk of my life or the majority of my life. I wanted something different. And at the time, I had that spark within me of teaching, of educating. Though I didn't know it, or maybe I did know it, it was like I was always running from it. Sometimes we run from our true purpose or true calling. Why do we do that, right? Maybe we're scared. Maybe it's imagination. Maybe it's we don't have a true definition of who we're supposed to be. No one necessarily has a roadmap from when we're born to when we are on our deathbed. We have to create that on the go, on the fly. Yet, if you get a coach, you plan that roadmap together. So it's no longer you by yourself. It's no longer you fighting the world by yourself. Now you have a teammate. Now you have someone who can see your life for what you are and what you would like to be. It's important that we realize that we can make the changes that we want to make. Just how I decided to make some changes, just how my guest decided to make some changes in her career, because you can fall into career for a good portion of your days. And then you can say, you know what? There's something else that I want to do. What is the true meaning behind what you do? I believe that finding a coach that is going to help you uncover that true meaning for yourself is going to be invaluable, because you can spend your whole life working a 9 to 5 and not find meaning in it. Yet you can get a coach, you can get a mentor, you can get a guide that might see that 9 to 5, find a trait within it or find a trait within you and say, this is why you do what you do. And then from there, you can embellish what you do. You can add on to what you do. You can pivot to do different things. All in all, the end result is going to be you living the life that you should be living. The authentic you is not far away. So let's get you to that version of yourself. And if you need some help, we are going to be here. All of Ruhina links, again, are going to be in the description box below. You can also always go over to revenconcepts.com, get yourself some coaching, and get yourself on that track to the you you're supposed to be being. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.